We're going to look at complex numbers today. So the important thing to remember with complex numbers is that they are represented by the letter I, and that is equal to the square root of -1. I squared is the same as the square root of -1 squared, and squaring and square rooting are inverse functions. They'll undo each other. So when we square a square root, we end up with what's inside. So I squared equals -1. Let's look at an example. In example 1 here, we're going to simplify each power of I. So if we look here, we have I squared plus I to the 8th. We said on the last slide that I squared is -1. But then we have I to the 8th. If we break that down, we have I squared 4 times. So I squared times I squared times I squared times I squared. And each of our I squareds is -1. So we have -1 times -1 times -1 times -1. -1 times -1 is 1. -1 times -1 is 1. So this equals -1 plus 1 times 1 is 1. -1 plus 1 is 0. So for this example, I squared plus I to the 8th equals 0. In our next example, we're going to simplify each expression. So we're going to look at, we're going to do 2 problems here. So we have 3 plus 4i plus the quantity -4 plus 5i. So since we're adding everything, we can just add across. So the first thing we're going to do is to combine our numbers. So 3 minus 4. And then we're going to look at our i's. We have plus 4i plus 5i. So 3 minus 4 is -1. And then 4i plus 5i is 9i. And so this is our solution. Alright, so if we look at another type, so let's look at one where we need to distribute. So if we have 5 plus 7i minus -5 plus I, it's going to be the same process, except we need to remember to distribute our negative sign. So we're going to have 5 plus 7i in our first quantity. And then when we distribute, we're going to have negative times -5, so that's 5. Positive 5, and then -5 times -I is going to be -I, combining our like terms, combine our numbers. So we have 5 plus 5. And then looking at our i's, we have 7i minus I. So 5 plus 5 is 10. 7i minus I is positive 6i. Now we can move on to our next example. Again, we're going to simplify each expression, but now we're going to be dealing with multiplication. So here we have the quantity -2 plus I squared. And when we're squaring the entire thing. We're going to have -2 plus I, and then multiplied. So here we need to do our FOIL or box method, whatever you're comfortable with. Either way is fancy distributing. So we have negative 2 times negative 2, and then negative 2 times I. So negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative 2 times I is negative 2I. And then we're going to take our I and distribute it. So I times negative 2. And then I times I squared. So 4. We don't have any other numbers, but we know that this I squared is negative 1. So now we can combine our 4 and negative 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. And then negative 2i minus 2i is negative 4i. And so our quantity negative 2 plus I squared is equal to 3 minus 4i. Moving on to our last example, we're going to continue to simplify each expression, but now we're going to use division. Now when we do this, we're going to, because it's not proper to have an I in the denominator, so we're going to multiply by the conjugate. Conjugate is when we use the same first term and last term, but we change the sign in the middle. And to make it a legal function, we're going to multiply the top and bottom. So our conjugate of negative 4 minus I, the conjugate is negative 4 plus I. When we do it to the top and bottom, this is the same as multiplying by 1, so we're not changing the value of anything. We're just going to change how it looks. We're going to come up with find the equivalent expression. So we're going to multiply everything on the top and bottom. I'm just going to rewrite it to do our distributing. So I'm going to take 3 times negative 4 and 3 times I. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. 3 times I is 3I. I'm going to take negative 2i times negative 4 and negative 2i times I. So negative 2i times negative 4 is positive 8i, and negative 2i times I is negative 2i squared. So I'm going to do negative 4 times negative 4. Negative 4 times I. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. Negative 4 times I is negative 4i. Negative I times negative 4 and negative I times I. So we have positive 4i and negative I squared. We're going to combine our like terms, but before I do that, I want to remember that I squared is the same as negative 1. So I'm just going to rewrite that. So now I have up top here, I have negative 12. And then I have negative 2 times negative 1 here. Combining these two. I have my 16, and then I might have my negative negative I. And then I can combine these terms. Alright, so negative 12 minus negative 2 times negative 1. Combining these, negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. So I'm going to rewrite that. And negative times negative 1 is a positive 1. So I have negative 12 plus 2 is negative 10. Combining my imaginary numbers, I have 3i plus 8i, which is 11i. (16) plus 1 is 17. And then negative 4i plus 4i, that cancels out to 0. And so this is our final expression.